Hello, this is Tracy, Brenda, and Jay. Thanks for tuning in to Beating the Odds, the lighter side of stroke recovery and survival. This is episode 6.
Is it?
It is just a couple days before New Year's, and we are blessed to have Jay with us today. He is husband and was her caregiver and still is, and such an intricate part of Brenda's recovery. So we wanted to get Jay's input on what it was like for him and why we think it's so important for a caregiver to come on here, because there are so many caregivers out there that are just feeling overwhelmed and burnt out, and we want to give everybody some support. So for you caregivers out there, I hope you're watching because Jay is amazing. So we're going to
I'm
start with
blushing, Tracy. I'm blushing.
I know you wanted this to be short. So
can I say something? Can I first?
absolutely.
I need to say something. First of all, the two of you, you're amazing. An inspiration. You know, I live with an inspiration all the time. But Tracy, your story it really touches home. It's different from Brenda's. Everybody's experience, as you've talked about in the past. You know, stroke recovery and having the stroke and the event and the, as Brenda calls it, the whoopsie. That moment, it looks different for everyone, but you know, every story is unique. Every story comes with a lot of power and a lot of gravitas. So I want to thank you for sharing your story. And yes. I feel really blessed to be able to be here to share a little bit of my perspective on, you know, our event, you know, and some of the time leading up to it, and also a lot of what happened afterwards, because that's where the caregiving really started.
Right. It's a journey and it's ongoing. And I'm almost at 21 years, and Brenda's going on 6.
And Trace, by the way, I heard in episode 1, you said you wanted to come visit Montreal. You said you wanted to come and hang out with us. We're going to do probably a live podcast, maybe in Montreal. That would be amazing.
Oh my God, that would be great.
We're looking forward to having you, and you coming back into Brenda's life, even as a result of these types of circumstances. Still, we always have to look for the silver lining, and this is
definitely
an amazing silver lining to you know, and now you're in my life, whether you like it or not.
I'm so happy. You know, we have never met in person, but I'm telling you, you are just such a beautiful person, and you're just so wonderful. And I'm so happy that the two of you met at Camp Lake Echo many years ago.
Well, we'll see how you feel about me after the end of the podcast. You never know.
No, we'll see how you feel about me. That's going to be... You're going to be like, Brent, she's never coming back here. She needs to stay in New York. All right. Are we ready to get started?
Yeah. And so unlike our usual question of the day, all of our questions are at you, Jay.
Wonderful.
And so
fire away.
I'm going to start with the first question. And I want to give the warning, I guess, to you and everyone watching that the goal is for Jay to be honest, and that might be uncomfortable at times for him or anyone looking and listening and watching. But the goal is to be honest and supportive and connect all of us. That said, the first question is, what was your initial experience vis-a-vis January 8th, 2020? That was the day of my stroke. Can you talk about that day from your perspective?
Yes, but before I do want to admit that I am quite nervous. I've never done a podcast before. I'm not active on social media. I'm just honestly happy to be here, but a little bit of nerves. And then Brenda kind of says something very important to me, and I want to share it, you know, with everyone, because it grounded me right away. And she tends to do that with me, which is one of her beautiful powers. And that is, she said, you know, as nervous as you are, if you're able to connect with one caregiver out there, if somebody sees this podcast and they take some nuggets from whatever it is that you are sharing, you're going to do good. So just embrace that, go with that flow, and everything will come from it. And thank you, Brenda, for mentioning that to me, because that just, it immediately grounded me and allowed me to say, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah, and none of us are perfect, and we're not professionals here, and it's just a conversation.
Amazing. And it's part of the growth experience in trying to do something new. So we all have to push our boundaries, every single one of us.
Absolutely.
So get January 8th. We want to talk about January 8th. Let's talk a little bit just before January 8th. So, Brenny's had in her life, some medical conditions, I would say, that have put me in a position where I've had to be caregiver on several occasions, more short term, more, stepping in at moments of real weakness and vulnerability. She's fainted on the airplane several times. She has passed out in bathrooms as a result of her low blood pressure. It's happened many times. She's experienced, vertigo, and she had all kinds of other issues that kind of and struggled with migraines for many, many years. So those migraines could take her out of the game for
You're making me sound
as much as
delightful.
5
I'm
days.
sounding
Yeah.
delightful.
Right. And this is, obviously, you never know what's going to manifest within you physically, but Brenny had a lot of these conditions and they were regularly occurring. I would say I had to be in a position to help her and get her to hospital or get her to get medical care or to help just get her through these tough moments many times. And
Okay.
so going into the holiday season of 2019, the end of 2019, we were basking in the sunlight. Brenny had just taken a step back from her career. She was going to retool and take a year or two and try and figure out next steps. We just came off a wonderful summer. We enjoyed each other's company for the first time in like 12 years, where we actually had a summer together. And it was lovely. And it was everything that we had hoped for and more. But as the fall started to come in and Brenny continued to work, doing her workouts and trying to take care of herself, I think we started to notice some things happening over the couple of months leading up to the event. So I think as a caregiver, I'm also trying to share with people, as a loved one, you need to really be observant, even if you're with a healthy individual, somebody who the doctors say is great and better health than you even. If you're seeing symptoms, that you got to start connecting the dots. Can't just look at everything in an isolated fashion. And what was happening with Brenny is and she's in the room. I feel weird like we're talking as if she's a third person, but
Like you're not even here.
Brenny had like I said, she had carpal tunnel, she had vertigo, she had headaches, she was losing her grip strength. It wasn't the same. Her energy was down. She was experiencing also some mental health challenge, a little bit of blasé, I would say. I wouldn't say all, depression, but things were going on, and
Yeah.
as much as she would do a workout and she'd have a couple of good days, she'd have some bad days. And then as we approached December, it was just, we were on the vacation and she just hit a wall. It was a massive migraine, unlike anything that I've ever seen with her. It scared me right away.
Wow.
I got nervous, although she was unable to open her eyes. She was unable to be in the light. And it was days on of just bringing her meals, seeing her not eating, and then eventually saying, hey, we've got to get you for some medical care. I know you're a tough girl and you're trying to fight this out and you don't want to put anyone out or create a scene. I think that's something that bothers her.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a lot of pride. She's got a lot of, she feels she can overcome a lot without,
Right.
without help. And eventually I just had to step in and we got to the hospital. And by the way, the hospital that we took her to is ranked as in the top 150 hospitals in the world.
Whoa.
The ranking just came out a couple of days ago. So I took her to one of the best hospitals on the planet. The best human healthcare practitioners are there. And they sent her away. And they just gave her meds for a migraine. And they said, you know what, you're just going to have to work this through. Granted, it was the Christmas break. Granted, I guess they were understaffed or what. I don't know what the circumstances were, but the ER sent her away. 2 or 3 days later, we had to get her back there again because it was unsustainable, the condition that she was in. She refused to let me get her an ambulance. We fought about it, even as she was in this in a state of migraine and wearing like the darkest sunglasses. And she looked like the type of person that is running away from the paparazzi, like big coat, like you couldn't recognize her.
Right.
like a
Incognito.
movie star. But she was the furthest thing from it. She was trying to just make it through second by second at that moment. And I drove her to the hospital. By the way, the same hospital that I took her to, thinking that, you know what, they saw her. Maybe they'll have the file and they'll be able to kind of follow her.
Was this in Montreal? I'm sorry,
In
Jay. Was this
Montreal,
in
in
Montreal?
Montreal. Yeah, in
Okay.
Montreal.
Okay.
And then, you know, they did a couple of scans. They said that they saw something in her brain. They called it a meningioma. So this is like a benign, they basically said it was like a benign tumor, most likely that we would have to get an MRI in the new year because they don't have an MRI machine available for them in the ER. At least that's what they told us. She wasn't a candidate for it. They gave her some really heavy drugs,
Yeah.
sent her home
Yeah.
again, second time. And
Jeez.
so we put her on these drugs and she started to lift off of the symptoms of the headache slowly with these drugs. But I think the drugs were just simply masking.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
masking a lot of what was going on.
Yep.
And then obviously once we came out of the holidays and it was about 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days of her feeling okay. We took some walks outside in the evening when the sun was down just for her to move her body. That Monday, I was going back to work and I said, honey, it looks like you're able to kind of get out of bed. You're able to go down to the kitchen, get some food for yourself. You're going to take it easy. No, I'm feeling better. I'm going to go for a workout today. And I said,
Oh my
okay.
Brenda.
I said, all right, let's do this. You want to go for a workout. I'm really excited that you have
You both
the,
look
the
very
gusto.
shocked at that.
I
Oh,
was.
I'm sure.
And she wanted to go for it. So she went for a workout and she was working out with a personal trainer at the time. And it was a 45-minute workout. As soon as she finished the workout, I remember calling her because I was on the road heading from one job site to my office. And I said, so how did the workout go? Da, da, da. And she said, no, I'm feeling okay. It was hard. It was tough, but it was okay. So I said, okay, great. I'm going to work. I'm happy that you got through the workout and that it didn't make things worse. And that was it. You know, I just
An
later
update.
that day, I know Brenda covered a little bit of this, but later that day, Brenda didn't show up for pickup with the kids. It was already 5. She had missed the pickup for her younger son at the high school. My elder son, my middle child, Jacob, he was in the house, but he was working online, I guess, and he was in his room. Didn't wasn't paying attention to what was going on. But Brenny had already passed out. She had collapsed in the living room at that time.
Okay.
And then I called Jacob. I said, Jacob, do you know where mom is? Go check the basement. Go check some of the rooms. See if she's around. And I'm already in the car because I know that someone has to go pick up my son from school.
Yeah. Right.
Jacob went ahead and found Brenny in the living room. She was on the floor already. She had vomited. It was
Oh my
a
God.
mess. But like Brenny said earlier on in another episode, it was very much, this is Brenda-esque. This is her having a migraine. This is her fainting, or this is her just dealing with her baseline of health issues, which we never really had any answers for. But I continue to forge towards. I was right at the high school at that point. I picked up my son who was waiting outside, and I'm literally 5 minutes from the high school to the house. I did a beeline to the house, got in, and that was it. My life changed right at that moment when I saw my wife. I knew right away that this was either a cardiac event or a stroke or something significant, because she was not able to put any words together. She was mumbling. She had no bodily control. She had she couldn't really put anything together. Like, she just was not herself at all. And I've seen her come out of a fainting spell. I've seen her with dealing with migraines, and this looked completely different. So that was it. We went 911, and that's where it started.
Oh my gosh. That had to be so scary, first of all, for Jacob.
For the 2 boys, they were both there. They
Yeah.
both witnessed it. I think my younger son ran upstairs. I think he was afraid of the whole thing. He just ran, and I couldn't deal with them and help them through this moment. It was just total focus on, let's get emergency care here as quickly as possible. Let's make sure she's not choking on any vomit. Let's make sure so we got her in a little bit of a semi-prone position. I didn't want to prop her up because I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But we were making sure she was breathing, and she was breathing the entire time, but she was unconscious. Once I got to the house, I think in the deep recesses of her mind, she was waiting for me. And then once I arrived, she let go. She let go a little bit,
Okay. Yeah, you
but she was
forced
holding,
yourself to
holding, holding.
do yeah. Do you remember any of that, Bren?
Well, I remember having a conversation with my friend Lori. I was lying on the couch. I'm looking at right here. And
Yeah.
and I said to her, "You know what? I'm not feeling so well. I think I'm gonna go." And I hung up the phone. That was the last thing I remember. So
Wow.
I rolled off passed out, fell off the couch and vomited, and then everything that Jay's talking about.
So I
So
don't know. What was your question again, Brenda?
yeah, I don't even know. That
Yeah.
was just
Sorry.
incredible.
So we hopped. I could just finish up. We just hopped into the ambulance. Brenny was already crashing at that point. You know, she was crashing in the ambulance. They were working
God.
on her. They put me in the front seat because they saw that I was upset,
Oh, I'm sure.
but in a calm way. I wasn't, you know, but I was upset. I was clearly going through my own shock of just like,
Right.
what is this? What is happening right now? And we got to the hospital. It was actually the same hospital that we had visited two other times.
Did you just wanna punch
Mhm.
somebody in the face when you got there?
Oh my goodness. No, believe it or not, Trace,
Good question.
you know, the feelings go inwards before they go outwards with me.
Yeah.
I'm saying to myself, how could I have let this happen?
Oh my god.
No, no, no. As a caregiver, and
Yeah.
you love someone and you're there to protect them. And I'm a protector. That's who I am.
Right.
I came on this earth for that reason. I'm here to serve my family. That to me is my main purpose, my main thrust in life. And as a protector and as a caregiver, as a husband, when you see your wife in the state, you start to play things back in your head right away. You're like, okay, you know, first you're hoping that she's going to make it through the next moment, but obviously you're starting to vacillate between what you could have done differently. And so instead of thinking about the hospital and thinking about the doctors that sent us packing a couple of times and not really focusing on that, I kind of focused first and foremost inwards. That came, by the way, Tracy, the feelings
Okay.
of anger
Yes.
and resentment towards the medical community for some of the balls that they dropped. And the day before I left to go she had a medical appointment and she got cleared by her general practitioner.
Oh god.
Her general practitioner was out of town and they had somebody who didn't know her but still had her file and look at her, and they spent time with her, and they cleared her. They didn't say that there was any problem with her. So I don't even know what to say. So between the emerge
Mm.
department twice and the general practitioner, and then let alone what happened the day of the stroke and when we arrived at that hospital. I don't like to name names
Right.
because I don't want to put the hospital in any position where they need to have to defend
Right.
themselves. That's not what it's about. And I never sued the hospital. I never pursued them legally.
Yeah.
Partly even though I wanted to at one point, but Brenny convinced me that that's not where our
It's gonna
energies need
change
to be put in,
everything.
and she helped
Mm.
me focus out of that mode, let's just
Yeah.
say. But when we arrived at the hospital and she was crashing, the doctor called me in to say goodbye to her.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine.
So I went in there. Yeah, wow, I haven't thought about that in a long time. Yeah, her blood pressure was 200 over, I don't know, I remember seeing I remember seeing her blood pressure over 200 on the monitor.
Oh
At
my
least it
god.
was diastolic, systolic. It was 200 over. I don't remember. I don't remember the second number. Maybe it was like 60 or some crazy number.
That's
She was crashing,
insane.
and I gave her a kiss, and they asked me to leave right away because they had to do another. They had to drill another
Yep.
drain in her
The burr
head to
hole.
kind of relieve some of the bleed. So
Yes.
because they caused another bleed with the first drain, which is,
I
again,
That's
was
unreal.
shocking to me. All I remember is being alone in the hospital, the kids being at home, not knowing what was going on, me not
Right.
being able to call the kids because I'm not calling the kids without definitive information. Either A, your mother passed away, or going home and telling them that their mother passed away, or just simply waiting for some definitives that she has stabilized and that she's, she's fighting. But
Yeah.
until I didn't have that information, so I wasn't calling my kids. Everyone was out of town. Brittany mentioned that in the
Mhm.
earlier
And by
episode.
the way, one of our kids was in Bali at the time.
Yeah, my eldest, she was on the other side of the earth.
Right.
So I was just pacing the hallways in the hospital for the first 3 hours. I was just walking the halls. There was a little family room, I remember. It was empty. There were no other family members struggling with whatever was going on in the emerge because I wasn't the only person in there with a loved one who's experiencing a serious event.
Yeah.
But I couldn't stay in the family room. I had to keep moving. I had to keep my body moving. And that's what I did. I just paced the halls for 3 straight hours. In fact, the emerge doctor found me at one point down a hallway, said to come in and to come say goodbye to Brenny. He
Oh
wasn't
my
sure
God.
about what was going on there. You know, best that you go and see her now. I was like, wow.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Now, Bren, was she unconscious at this point?
Oh yeah. Brenny wasn't around. She was out of it. She was unconscious. She was either stepping into some sort of coma at that
Yeah.
point because she was not responsive and she was just I think there were a few systems still running. You know, her heart was going, she was breathing, but pretty much everything else was in a big struggle.
My heart is just breaking for you, Jay. I mean, that I know, Brenda, that you and I feel that guilt
Yeah.
sometimes that we put our loved ones through that. And, you know, what I want to say, Jay, is I hate that you felt that you dropped the ball somehow.
Yeah.
The guilt that you feel, this is not your fault at all. There was nothing, there was no way you could have known that it was that serious and that it would lead to this.
Right.
Absolutely. And there has to be a way for you to deep down understand that and let that go because as much as we have guilt that we put our loved ones through that, and even that I get survivor's guilt that why did I survive and
Yeah.
others have didn't survive this? It takes a long time to let that go, but you have to. Like I just wanna my heart is breaking that you feel that because I know you're a protector. I haven't even met you and I know that about you.
I
And
don't
you
think it
just
ever goes away, Trace. For caregivers out there, I think when they have the opportunity to make a difference before an event occurs and they don't take every step necessary. There were a lot of steps that we did take that were good, and that's where I think the other side fell a little short. But there's always more that could be done. There's always more insistency. There's always taking more action, and
Mhm.
those feelings will never fully be extinguished from me. But
Right.
I can tell you that I've worked hard to try and move past it and not allow it to define myself by
Good.
if that
Good.
helps. I mean, for people, they need to work on kind of accepting it and never forgetting it, but trying to move on from it. And moving on from it could simply just be time. Time is
Yeah.
sometimes the only thing that's on your side,
Yeah.
but also therapy, talking to people. I could have done a lot more of that. I remember going to some workshops, caregiver
You did.
workshops that were
You
offered
did.
for free through some of the convalescent homes in Montreal area. And I went to like a 10-week workshop and sat with other people who had gone through other experiences, not necessarily
Mhm.
stroke survivor for a loved one. And I also, when Brenny had physiotherapy at one point, I would be taking her and I think they saw me either bothering them during the physio session and like being too on top of it and trying to get me away from Brenda, or they saw me struggling and said, maybe you could use some counseling.
Yeah.
And I accepted the counseling. It gave Brenny a little bit of time away from me
Mm.
to be with the physiotherapist and not like me hanging over everything with her
Right.
and being able to talk to a therapist or a counselor or social worker for a little
Mhm.
bit. And that was not necessarily very helpful, but it still started something. It started some sort of self exploration of, it helped a little bit with the more, less with the guilt and more about the mourning of and the grief of a previous life. And then learning that that is okay to grieve
Yeah. That's a
and to try
huge
and get
thing.
out of this perpetual grief because our situation, as much as it has evolved, it hasn't evolved substantially where if I chose to stay in a perpetual state of grief I could have, just
You're
the same way
stronger.
Brenny could have stayed in a perpetual state of whatever she was back in 2020, 2021. But she has made choices not to be that person, and I've also made choices not to be that person and stay in that perpetual state of grief because what we lost was so tremendously um, big. It was big,
Yeah,
you know, and the
absolutely.
shift, from our life before and our life after, and the contrast between those 2 lives is vast.
I don't think people understand the gravity of that. And
Yeah,
we talk about that, Brenda and I, the old us, the new us, but the essence of us is still there. And there's so much that's different and so much that's different for our loved ones. And it takes so much patience and understanding. And you may not feel what we're feeling physically and mentally and emotionally, but the fact that you're there and you're willing to listen and you're not turning her away or saying, I don't want to talk about this or whatever. I mean, it helps so much just that you are there and you are open to what she's feeling and thinking. That means so much as a survivor. And I know that's so important to Brenda. And just the fact that you went through that trauma, that changed you forever. I'm
without a
sure it
doubt.
did. I'm sure it did. And the fact that there was some support for you, I think that's so important that the caregivers have some sort of support system, some sort of support groups that they can go to. And there's not many.
They're out there, you gotta find them. You
Yeah.
gotta you gotta put yourself in a position to look for them and do your research and talk to the healthcare providers out there, whether they're talking to people at the convalescent homes or at the rehabilitation centers, the hospitals. The social workers started right away with us in the hospital. Those 60 days Brenny was in the hospital, I mean, thank God for the 4th floor, uh, Montreal Neurological Institute, an incredible institution, world class. The people working on that floor, the stroke ward, the 4th floor, are incredible individuals, some of which I will never forget. I took Brenny in a couple of years later. We had to go and do a follow up with a neurosurgeon, and we went up to that floor. We saw a couple of nurses that came down to the floor that we were at, that were up on the 4th when we were there. And I said, Brenny, that nurse was here. That was your PAB, and now there were people still hanging out, working even through the pandemic, and
Yeah.
finding a way. Just incredible people. But the social worker was there with us right from the beginning, as I
That's
mentioned. So
incredible.
checking in on family being me. They didn't see my kids very much. My kids, I kind of sheltered my kids a lot from this. I
Right.
don't know if that was a good thing. Probably a good thing. I only brought my youngest son in maybe a month after Brenny had recovered. I brought him in. I kind of said, Mom's okay. If you want to see her, you can come. I think he was afraid.
Oh, yeah.
And I never dealt with that fear. I never talked to him about it. I was simply just trying to make it through every day. But eventually I said, you know, it's a good idea. Why don't you come and see mom? She's in a good place. You'll be happy to see her. You'll see her smile. And at that point, a month afterwards, after the stroke, Brenny she had started to talk a little bit. So I think her
Okay.
voice had come back at that point, which made it easier for a visit, I think, at that point.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
And she had a lot of other things hooked up to her, and I think we were waiting for as many of those tubes and wires and whatever weren't
Yeah.
hooked up, just to give my son an opportunity not to be too upset. I think the
Right.
visuals could
Shocked.
throw a young kid off. And so as a caregiver, I suggest, everyone has their own way, but I think it's important to protect your children, because a lot of the scenes, a lot of the visuals they will encounter will be with them. It won't go away. That may be for a good thing. It may also have a negative impact on children. But that was the call that I made. I'm not saying it's the right call. They eventually came. My 2 elder kids were there right from the beginning. They were both in their late teens, early 20s. But my youngest, who was 12 at the time or 13 at the time, I kind of sheltered him a little bit, and he eventually surfaced, like I said. But take your time with that. Think about that. It's an important decision to make, how you want to reintegrate the children back with either your husband or your wife, who's sitting in a hospital bed with all kinds of equipment hooked up to them. It's not an easy decision,
Yeah. That has to be scary for a kid.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I don't have any children, but I'm very close to my nieces and nephews. And I know that my sister chose not to bring my 2 at the time. She was pregnant with my youngest nephew, but, just the stress that she went under, and she had to go to New York City every day to see me, so that was an hour and a half drive in the middle of the winter. So, yeah, she chose to keep the kids. We were very close, but she's like, "No, you'll see her in rehab," type of thing.
I think
So, yeah,
nowadays,
that's a
Trace,
personal.
nowadays a lot of parents, they kind of treat their children like friends. It's a sad thing to see.
Yeah,
And I was very cognizant of making sure that my children's lives could continue. That that my responsibilities didn't become their responsibilities. I had a
right,
responsibility to them. They
right,
had a responsibility to go to school, to stay active, to stay social, to, you know, reach out to their mom, absolutely. But they didn't have to endure. And as a parent and as an adult, you have to find other sources and you have to find sources of strength. And that doesn't include your kids. Your
right,
kids have to be protected. You have to, even in these dark moments, you have to find a way to make sure that your kids stay your kids and not your friends and
right,
not become part of your support system. And I made
right.
sure of that.
No, that's great. That was one of my questions actually, is how did you juggle?
I don't know how I did it.
How did you juggle? Were you
I don't
did you
I don't remember.
able to take
It
off
all
from work?
feels like a
Or
fog to me because we got kicked out of the rehab center because of COVID.
right,
So we
and COVID, I forgot
right.
about that.
So we were in the hospital for 60 days. Rennie got her swallow test done. She was able to swallow food, which is incredible. She kind of put her hands together and finally made a sound with her vocal cords, so we knew that she was going to be able to speak again. Um,
Unbelievable.
and then we were able to kind of get her out of the hospital, and we got her into this rehab center, hopefully to help her build her strength, maybe in practice her walking, practice her speech therapy and what have you. But we got pushed out of there after 10 days.
Jeez,
It
and
was
that's it?
March 13th, March 12th.
I'm sorry, I have to correct you. We didn't get pushed out. They had, because of the COVID regulations, I could stay there, but they weren't going to let you, even you, come in to see me. So we,
Yeah, but that
we,
wouldn't be possible.
we,
I would never allow that. Right.
Right,
We got pushed out because I would never have not
right.
been able to go and visit my
Right.
wife. That just didn't make sense to me. So you're right,
right.
Brenny. But they gave us a choice. It was a kind of a weird
Okay,
choice to even offer, but nonetheless, we decided to bring her home, and I brought her home. It was March 12th or March 13th. It was a Friday. It was going to be her weekend off of the rehab center. We were actually bringing her home anyhow, but then we
okay,
decided not to bring her back. Um, because of because we weren't allowed to and I wasn't able to come visit her after that. And then we were on basically on an island on our own. We had
right.
we had no help from the rehab center. They sent no one. We had no
No one.
physiotherapist. We had no social worker. We had no connection. There was no online or
Nothing.
telehealth being offered to us. We were basically alone.
Yes,
And my kids were with me and we were, so between getting up and taking care of Brenny and taking care of the kids and shopping, or some shopping was us ordering food and having it delivered to the house
yeah.
because no one was going out to the store at that time, at least for those first 3-4 months, and just cleaning the house and trying to keep things above board.
But
We
I
just
also
Yeah.
want to point out that a big blessing you had was because you worked with your dad. You were able to step away from work.
absolutely, absolutely. So
Oh,
the
okay.
pandemic was 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 a blessing and a curse because the fact that the pandemic, everyone kind of had to step away from their regular life, and we were stepping away from our regular life not because of the pandemic, but more because of other circumstances. It didn't feel like we were doing something so tremendously different from others because
Right,
everyone was stuck at home. And I
right,
needed to be at home. Had we not had a pandemic, I would have had to take a leave of absence from work. And
right.
eventually, once things started to get better and vaccines started to come in, I had to take a leave of absence because Brenny wasn't at a state where I could go back to work. And so I ended up having to take almost a year off of
Wow.
work. And that's after working full time, never being unemployed, never not having a job
Ugh,
since 1994. So it felt weird, but and a complete shift of gears, a shift of you know, all kinds of responsibilities, and I took over a lot of what Brenny was doing for many years,
Yeah, I could
and
imagine.
I got pretty good at it. I have a funny story to tell you about Brenny. I finally got Brenny down to the kitchen every now and then, and she would try and cook with us, and she would try and you know sit on the chair and point different ingredients because she was such a good cook when she
Mhm.
beforehand when she was really actively cooking a lot and eventually she saw the way I was putting things back in the cabinets and I was just making a mess of everything. I was just destroying the
Your
kitchen.
face.
I do the dishes. I put things away where I thought that they should go, but it wasn't the right place. And Granny had a place for everything.
Mhm.
She
Who's
was
driving
such
her nuts?
a master, a master. She would see that, she would freak out, and it would create a little bit of friction, I have to admit. But at one point, we were baking something, and we went in to try and get some bowls. And I said to her, "So, what bowl do you recommend?" She's like, "Well, take any bowl." I said, "Well, Brittany, there's round bowls, there's oval bowls, there's rectangular bowls." I'm like, and then I said, and I swore to her, I said, "Pick a damn shape. Why do we have all these shapes of different bowls in the kitchen? Just pick a damn shape." And we started to laugh, and it was a laughing moment, but she remembers that moment. That was
Yeah,
funny.
you
And now
do?
we have bowls all with the same shape. That
Yeah,
that we do have.
no more guesswork. See, and that's what we like to focus on, like, through the horrible circumstances, there's always funny moments or just breaks in the stress and the sadness and the change that, you can look back on like, that just was such a good moment. We always talk about that, it's important to focus on those moments, even for the caregivers, I imagine. I mean, it's not a funny subject at all, but there are funny moments, and that
That
just
is
helps.
absolutely, we have to find the humor and the light side. We have to,
Mhm.
and it was amazing to me how I didn't even lean on my faith. I was just so preoccupied with just trying to breathe and
You
get
were
through
just trying
each
to
one of these days.
survive.
Just trying to survive. And I
Yeah.
remember, obviously, it was hard for Brenny, I think, when I had to hire someone to stay overnight because I refused to have Brenny alone in the hospital. I just could not. So we had somebody come in at around 11 and leave at 7:30 in the morning. So I would arrive sometime between 7:30 and 8 a.m. every day. I dropped the kids off at school, and then I would head over to the hospital. And when I arrived, I really got the sense, as much as Brenny was in a little bit of a semi-conscious, she was dealing with a lot of brain swelling, and so she wasn't always there. She
Right.
certainly wasn't speaking a lot at the beginning. She couldn't speak, and so it was all eyes. It was all eyes. And I
Mhm.
remember I would just spend 8 a.m. to about 8:30, and I would show her the pictures that I put on her bed, up against the side of her bed of the kids. I'd be pointing to the pictures and telling her about where we were on those pictures, and she couldn't talk back to me, but I saw her eyes, and I
Yeah.
saw the love in her eyes. I saw the fight in her eyes.
Yeah.
I just saw so much. And then the tears would start to come down her eyes, and my tears it was really my favorite moment of the day was 8 a.m. to 8:30 because we were alone. No one was coming into the room.
Mhm.
The morning light was coming in. She was awake. I think she was happy that I was there. I really got that feeling. She couldn't express it to me. I got the feeling that she was just relieved that I was there and that she isn't alone. And we we had some intimate moments, very
Right.
intimate, deep connection just
Yeah.
through the eyes, just through the eyes. It was
Right.
really,
And
and
that.
through music, by the way. Music
Oh,
was huge for us in the hospital. I recommend caregivers right away find the best music that your loved one enjoys, find inspirational music that will give you hope, uplift you, positive music, music that you love to sing to. Us Gen Xers, we've got lots of music to choose from. Great music, love ballads, anything that can help you feel the love and connection to the person that's struggling. They feel it too. So music was a big, big piece. Huge.
Oh, that's great. That's a great suggestion. Like, I don't think we did that as a family, but yeah, that's just beautiful that you had that moment of connection every day with her
Yeah.
before the doctors came in and the chaos. And were the
Another
doctors?
thing that I did, Trace, I know we're jumping all over the place, but I
No, no,
want to
no, that's
like
fine.
do want to make sure that like caregivers out there know how important communication is to not just with the healthcare um, and the medical teams, but really how you communicate to the outside world about your loved one. Because oftentimes people just they think they can just post everything onto Facebook and Instagram and everyone's in real time, but you know what, at the end of the day you're not really considering your loved one and how they want to be seen. And for me, knowing Brenny and knowing what she's about, I had to maintain her dignity at all times, and finding a way to communicate with family and loved ones and friends and anyone outside of your bubble in a way which is tasteful, which protects the dignity of the loved one who's just fallen ill or has had a significant event, is paramount. And so I would have these daily logs that I would write at the end of the day. I would write emails and would send out a mass email to people, and I would ask them not to respond. And I would, by the way, I have the initial email that I sent out to the outside world, and it's a pretty good email. So if ever anybody contacts the show and they want to see a copy of that letter of what I wrote and how I wrote it, I think you have to be bold as a caregiver. You have to step up and immediately say, okay, well, I wasn't able to protect her from this event, but now there's another layer to this. I have to protect her, and I have to protect her dignity. I have to protect her privacy. Yeah. Thank you. And so there's a job there in that as well. And it's a job that you have to take very seriously, because if and when your loved one comes to and kind of pulls themselves out of that very, very vulnerable state, they want to see what happened. And Brenny asks me all the time, well, what happened? We talk about every now and then. She likes to hear the story over, not because she wants to hear it, but because it's hard for her to remember what happened, and it's almost like her brain is not allowing it to be stored in long-term memory. So every now and then she asks me, so what happened again? And this is somebody who's on it. She's in, thank God. But
That's something I want to touch on, because for me, I remember coming home from the hospital and I wanted to put the pieces together. I never slipped into a coma, thank God. I remember a lot of what happened, but I didn't remember if so and so came up to visit, or they would bring something up and I would ask my sister, who is my top caregiver. Like, she is the type to boom, 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 take care of business. So she, thank God for her, took care of the communication. And, she was there every day, even though she was pregnant, she was there every day making the hike up to see me. But when we got home, she had such a hard time talking to me about the event. And I needed to put the pieces together, and for my own closure and for my own understanding, to make sense of what the hell just happened to us, And I couldn't, for me to move forward, I had so many questions. And I remember her getting emotional and frustrated. And she's like, I don't want to talk about it. It's so painful. I don't want to remember that. I don't want to talk about it. And I said to her one time, I need you to talk about it. And this makes me emotional, because for me to move forward, I'm a detail oriented person. I'm an overthinker. I just needed to fill in the gaps to try to make sense of it. And I respected her because she's got anxiety, and it was traumatic. I mean, it was horrific for her. She thought I was going to die. And I have to
I hope
respect
she
her.
overcame that. I hope she overcame that eventually and was able to fill in some blanks for you.
Yeah, it's been 21 years. She's overcome it, and now I'm just a pain in the ass to her. But I really had
She
to
loves you.
push her. Yeah, my sister Renee, and I really would love for you to meet her at some point. I want to have her on the show.
I love that.
Yeah. And just, she doesn't like going back there. She just wants to like forget it and move on. And I understand that, but like Brenda, I needed to know all the gaps, fill it in for me because I needed that to move forward. And I think that's something that people don't understand as caregivers. Like, why do you want to go back there? She would ask me all the time, why do you want to remember that? And it was such a huge part of my life that I needed to understand all of it to move forward. And I know it was painful for her to talk about it again. And it still is. And now she kind of like brushes it off and, she doesn't want to have those deep conversations. And I respect that. I really do. And at this point, I kind of have all the gaps filled in and, it is what it is. But I will always wonder her point of view, from that.
Some people put up those defense mechanisms and they just, as with anything, you get into an accident or something, and oftentimes people can't remember it because the brain just shuts off certain abilities to be able to even recall the traumatic events.
Hmm.
And she may not be able to recall everything. She may be choosing not to recall. Maybe her subconscious is forcing her not to be able to recall. It's hard to really put it together, but every person is different. And of course, these are not enjoyable things to talk about.
Right.
People like to stay on the up and up. They like to stay, between 0 and 5 feet underwater. They don't like to go deep. My wife, who's with us, likes to go 10,000 leagues under the sea,
Right.
24/7.
That's
Okay.
me.
Right. And so I've got to put on
Like,
my scuba gear, Tracy, and get down there with it. Otherwise, okay, if I'm treading up at the surface, we're in two different planets. That's not going to work.
but
So,
it's so true. We are like that.
but our caregivers also have to find a way to meet us where we're at too. And it's a give and take. It's not just a one-way street. And your story is not just your story, Tracy. It's everyone's story. Everyone that was connected to your family saved your life, right?
Yeah.
I
My
mean,
brother, I say it every year,
right.
January 23rd.
They're
I call
connected.
him.
They're connected to this story, whether they like it or not, whether they want to admit it or not. And they're just, they've got to embrace it to a degree. I think it's not their life that they need to live going forward, but it's part of their story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, Anyways, it's,
Absolutely.
it's
I
never easy.
agree. No, it's not for anybody. And, that's where you have to figure out, okay, I backed off from my sister. Like, I'm like, all right, if you want to, and she never wants to bring it up. And, I deal with a lot of physical issues now because of my left side weakness. And we're older. I mean, I'm 54 now. So I feel like it's a car going into the shop. Like, I'm using joints because I walk differently and my gait's off and my knee now needs to be replaced because the joints are worn out. I had shoulder surgery because that joint was used, incorrectly and it wore it out. So she's dealing with that now in the present. So for me to now talk about 20 years ago in the hospital, she's like, don't even think about it. Like, don't even bring it up. She's a very much like, okay, I'm going to shut that off. I want to look forward. And we're all like that. Like, we're survivors and you just have to push through it. And people like, oh my gosh, you went through so much. To me, I'm like, you know what? Everybody goes through shit. Like, that's how I think about it. Like, yeah, this was my cross to bear. This was my event that I had to deal with, but everybody's got something. So I had to be strong. And yeah, I survived it. Thank God. And I say it every year. From my experience, for me in my head was January 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Those were like the 3 touch and go days. But I was coherent. I was drugged up from the ER and they kept me overnight in the local hospital until the next day. So I had been bleeding in the brain for like 48 hours before I was eventually rushed to a specialized hospital in New York City because I'm on Long Island, about 60 miles east.
Wow.
So yeah, they just sedated me. And I remember slurring and I remember like being drugged up all the time. And, when they finally got me wrapped up, I remember I was kept going in and out of consciousness because they just had me so highly sedated. But I always remember my family, that my brother or my sister. It's the three of us, so we always stick together. And I remember being outside because all of a sudden I'm like strapped down in a gurney, but I didn't know where I was. But I just woke up and it was freezing cold. And I hear my sister, I hear her voice, and she's like yelling. And I came to and I'm like, what is my sister yelling about? Like I had moments of clarity, like, and I
You were
was
coming
there
in
and
and
I
out,
was,
in and out.
yeah. And they're like, we have to take you to New York City to a hospital where there's a well renowned neurosurgeon. I said, okay. So in my head, I'm thinking, this is an emergency. Why, take me by helicopter or something. Like this
Right.
seems like it's a rush. No, they drove me by ambulance. And my sister was arguing with them. She was coming in the ambulance with me.
You keep talking.
Yes,
You keep
Brent.
talking. I've got to get my
Okay.
charger.
Okay.
Goodness.
You keep talking.
So yeah, she was arguing that she was coming with me in the ambulance, and they were like, no, you can't for insurance reasons. And she's yelling and she's like, I'm coming with her. And I looked at one of the guys and I said, you're not gonna win this. She's coming. You might as well just give up and give her a seat. So she
Wow.
did. But yeah, that's the advocate. Everybody needs an advocate. And I understand you didn't want to leave Brenda at night
Um,
because you need an advocate when we're not with it or
absolutely.
coherent.
Absolutely. My sister was a great advocate for me. She was amazing. She was a rock for me. She spent many days in Montreal early on. She would come visit every week when she went back to Ottawa. I'll never forget sitting with her and looking out onto Brenny. And we were sitting together and kind of like, again, no words needed really to be said. It was
Right.
all about the eyes and kind of she knew what I was thinking and I knew what she was thinking. And we didn't know what the F was going on.
Right.
And we were afraid of what was coming. We had no idea if Brenny would ever get out of this bed that we were
Right.
looking at her, and she was amazing. She was a rock. I'll never be able to thank her enough. I
Yeah.
let her into my bubble. I was very particular about who I wanted with me, and my
Mm-hmm.
sister was somebody who I let in, and
Yeah.
and thankfully, um,
And
she
thank
she didn't
goodness
she
you.
didn't take from she didn't take from me. She just gave to me. She
Oh, that's so
made me
sweet.
feel better when I needed to. She used humor. She was very positive, very
Yeah.
optimistic, but I think she was also again very afraid. But she kind of protected me from her what was going on internally, I think, with her. But
Right.
she was also losing a very close friend. Like Brenny and Jenny were very, very close, and they still are. But that was a big fear for her, I'm sure, as well,
Right.
knowing that her close friend and sister in law, but close friend, was going through this.
And thank God she was there for you and you let her
Amazing.
in.
Yeah. By the way, never approached her to talk to her, have a postmortem on things. My sis is not the type of person to do that with. She's great in the moment when shit is going down.
Yes.
Am I
Yeah.
allowed to
When
say that?
shit
When
hits the
shit is
fan,
going down,
you can
my
take care of it.
sister is the rock. She is the rock.
Hmm.
But luckily I have other outlets in my life to kind of process a little bit more. And I think my sister's done enough for me. I don't need to sit there and bring her down with my processing of all this. But yeah, I don't know what other questions you have. I think you have
Oh,
so many questions, but we can hit them all
yeah.
up pretty quickly if you want. I think
No,
the
I think
healthcare you
that was just a guide because, I knew this would be a natural conversation and we didn't really need the questions, but I did it just to make you feel a little more comfortable. We had something to back up, to rely on, but
yeah.
I knew we wouldn't need it. You touched on so much just from your
caregivers
perspective.
caregivers need to be prepared with with the healthcare practitioners and healthcare providers. They need to be prepared with questions. They need to ask the difficult questions, the questions that sometimes don't have easy answers. Don't just go for the low-lying fruit. Everything should be asked twice over. I'll
Mhm.
never forget the neurosurgeon pulling me aside the day before Brittany was released, and he said to me, "We're releasing her." I said, "Doc, that's amazing news." And I'm not gonna use the doctor's name. I know who the doctor is, and he knows who he is. And he turned to me and he said, "I'll see you in a couple of months. Oh, thank you. You know, you saved my wife's life.
Mhm.
You are amazing." He said, "Yeah, but she's not out of the woods yet. So I want you to know," he said to me, quote, "the type of condition she has could come back
Oh my god.
and she could have a reoccurrence." I said, "Okay, but she's doing better now." He's like, "Yes, but you need to be aware of the data." And he turned to me and he started to share the data with me. In this moment of joy, he felt it was important to bring me back down to reality. And part of me was happy that he did that, but part of me was upset because he kind of freaked me out and made me conscious of something that I perhaps may not have necessarily needed to be conscious of, which was the following: that every year that Brenny lives, there's another 5% increase that she will have a reoccurrence. And that percentage of increase is cumulative. So after 10 years, she will have a 50% chance of a reoccurrence. So
Okay.
I'm like, okay, 1 year's 5%. Okay. The second year, 10%. She's still 90-10. We've got 2 years, most likely. And then I'm like, 3 years. Okay, we've got to really get better within 3 years because I don't want to be in a 60-40 situation. Um, and
Mm.
then obviously 50-50. And then I'm like, my head is starting to go like, do I only have 5 years with my wife? Do I have
Oh
10
my
years with my
god.
wife? I mean, this was supposed to be a forever story. This was supposed to be a, you know, it was not supposed to be like this. And
Yeah.
he said that to me. I'll never forget it, and it still stays with me. Although we're 6 years in, I don't think about it anymore. I'm like, she always says she's living to 108. She's gonna outlive me. But that was a tough pill to swallow. But again, going back to the healthcare providers, make sure you ask the difficult questions and don't
Mhm.
take no for an answer, and don't feel like you're putting a healthcare provider out, so to speak,
Right. That's their
by
job.
asking them. It's your job to ask the tough questions. Your job to be informed. Your job to be as knowledgeable as possible.
And
To
it's their
avoid
job to explain everything and
absolutely.
so that you understand it. In layman's terms, if you don't understand it, I urge you to say, what are you talking about? Please explain it
Yeah.
more. So, were they good about that? Like, can you explain to us? Because I never heard of Brenda's condition before she brought it up. Like, she mentioned it. It's a
Yeah.
cavernous.
Cavernoma. It's a cavernous malformation
Okay.
in the brain. It's just simply basically a deformed blood vessel, or a
Yes.
cluster of blood vessels that that had a weak kind of
Alignment.
structure to it, a deformity which made the wall of the blood vessels weaker or susceptible to leakage. Anyone could be walking around with that. She could have been walking around that since birth. We
Yeah.
don't know. She did some genetic testing. They came back negative. It could have been formed later on in life. We don't know if it was something that occurred as a result of external factors or
Right.
a head injury. Who knows? We
Right.
don't know how it came about, but it was in the brainstem. So this cavernous malformation was literally like on top of her brainstem. And so even if we had found it and it didn't explode, which was very, very irregular for a cavernomatous malformation to explode or like implode, it typically just leaks. It leaks,
Yeah.
gently leaks, which creates a lot of pain because
Well, that
blood
I
in the brain
imagine
is a
that was
no-no.
all her migraines and stuff that had to
It could have
contribute.
been. It could have been. We don't know. And again, we'll never know.
Right.
It, if we had caught it before the explosion, it was almost in an area which was inoperable. So I'm not really
Yeah, the
sure what kind
brainstem,
of
no way. They
steps
won't
they would
touch
have
it.
taken to
They
try and
won't touch it.
resolve this. They probably wouldn't have touched it.
No.
Yeah.
You know what? Now that you're describing it, we refer to that here as an AVM, an arterial venous malformation. And I think that's just a difference in terminology, but
Okay.
it's just a mass of blood vessels that are like entangled with each other. And they think you're born with it. And
I
people
don't know.
are out there that have them have no idea. And they usually don't rupture. You're right. But I do know somebody personally whose daughter passed. suddenly at 6 years old from one. And the fact, Brenda, that you survived it with it being on your brainstem is such a miracle.
Insane.
And it doesn't make any sense, that I mean, you came through with, such strength, and your positivity never ends, and that's something that I treasure in you because you keep my spirits up.
And I think
You
that's
like
what caregivers, Trace, that's what caregivers need to focus on. I'm thinking about the caregiver that's out there right now that's ready to give up, or that's ready to say, I've had enough of this. I can't keep going with my spouse. I need to live my life. I need to go and find my joy. I don't know there's a lot of caregivers thinking things that are
Yeah.
pushing the envelope and forcing them into tough decisions. You see a lot of spouses leave their
Oh, yeah.
significant others after an event like this. And I'm hoping that they're out there, they're listening, and they have an opportunity to hear me say the following, that, you know, choose love over fear. Choose the love that you have with your wife or your husband over the fear of not having what you had always hoped you would have, the storybook life, because the life that you are going to lead with love will always be a life that you will cherish more than leaving the love of your life to chase something that is full of emptiness.
That's beautiful.
So I'm hoping, I'm really hoping and praying that if there's somebody out there that is really just dealing with the day-to-day grind and is having a difficult time digging deep and looking for the reasons why they should stay in this game,
Mhm.
stay in the life that you're in, because there's so much there to gain from it. There's so much more to gain from giving than
Yeah,
receiving.
you're absolutely
Um,
right. There's so many stories I hear that the spouse left because they just couldn't deal, and I think you have so much inner strength to recognize that and to stay and to stick it out. And I hear so many stories from survivors that they're now divorced, and
yeah.
I just feel for them. And you are an amazing spouse, an amazing husband and dad, and you're sticking it out. And the love you have for Brenda is like so obvious, and I feel it. And I'm in New York and
Yeah.
you're in Canada,
Mm.
and I'm so happy that Brenda has you. And I know you are a huge part in her successful recovery. I know she's still going through it and
Big
she
time.
still has her struggles and therapies, but to have you by her side, oh my gosh, that's just incredible. And I'm
I
so
think we
happy that you're there.
both made the choice to grow no matter what. And granted, the box that Brenny has right now to grow out of is different than the box that she had before the stroke, but she's still finding ways to grow and become a better version of herself. She's constantly pushing and striving for more out of her life, sucking out whatever nectar she can suck out of life. I am trying to emulate that as well. I'm trying to look at ways in which I can also push the envelope and grow. And that
Mhm.
way she's in a growth mindset and I'm in a growth mindset. And even though we're not necessarily utilizing the same tools to
Mhm.
build that growth mindset, she may not have the same physical prowess as me. I may be more physically intelligent than her at this stage. She may be able to write better than me
Oh my
and
god, she's an
do,
amazing writer.
yeah. And so pursue all kinds of endeavors academically, what have you. I think it's important to just find that spot, that space, and grow with your spouse, even though it may not look like what you had thought it would look like.
Mhm.
It can still be beautiful and still be precious and worth fighting for every single day. And that's probably where I want to finish off.
Yeah, that's
I actually
beautiful.
have one more question for you. Even though you just went on and on, and clearly people realize just how lucky I am to have you as my husband. But what I wanted to say as a survivor to all the other survivors out there, to be sure that you help your caregiver find what they need to fill their cups. So my question for you, Jay, is what do you do to help yourself?
You are amazing, Benny. Every morning I kind of reach out, make sure Benny's okay. She's kind of in a good spot. And then I say to her, today, especially because we're on vacation, and it's like everything's loosey goosey right now. We're kind of in the middle of a holiday break. And so every day's kind of relaxing right now. We're chilling here in Montreal. Everyone's chasing their vacation dreams wherever they are, but we're kind of hunkering down here in Montreal, minus 20 degrees.
Mm.
Ugh.
And I turned to Brenny and I say to her, you know, if you're okay, I could use some time to go and weight lift, or, you know, go to the Y, go to the sauna, give myself a little bit of respite, a little bit of time to recover and strengthen myself. And she's always so open to allowing me to do that. She's
Oh, no. How about
well,
encourage? I say
I
to
mean,
him,
it's
you can't use the word, do you give me permission? Because it's not about
right.
permission. It's about encouraging. And that's what I want
I
to
think it's more for me though,
you know,
Brenny. I need to know that you're okay. You're in a
I
good
know, but
spot for me to be able to
my
do that.
goal is to speak to other survivors out there to encourage your caregiver to do that, to take time for themselves, because that's so essential.
Yeah,
She
the
really
burnout
does.
rate is tremendous, and you have to take care of yourselves. Absolutely. Although you're like, she's number one, I have to make sure she's okay. She's nothing really without the support of you. So you have to make sure that you're okay too.
It's an
You
important
know,
lesson for caregivers out there, and it's not an easy. Some people come by it a little bit easier than others. Some really need a lot of work at it, and they need more help from their significant other to coerce them, coerce them, or like push them
Encourage.
towards helping themselves. Yeah,
yeah,
encourage. Yeah,
yeah,
And sometimes
definitely.
I've even said, when Jay has said that he doesn't want to, I say, you know what? Go to the gym for me, because I need
Oh,
you.
that's
I
great.
need you to be healthy and strong. I need that. And that if
Yeah.
he's not able to get there on his own, that will get him. So,
Yeah,
that's
oh,
a big
yeah.
motivator.
That's the thing. You figured it out.
yeah. And I know that
No,
we've
that's
gone
really
very long,
important.
but I just wanted to share, because the tip of the day, I told you, Trey, was something that felt very timely because Jay is on. And so one of the things, and I just want to say before I tell you what it is, that it's not just for people who have experienced a stroke or any other, or an aneurysm or any other kind of ABI, but for everybody. And Jay would agree with me
Mhm.
on this one. So what we do every week, once a week, we each have, and we've evolved the way we've done it over the past couple of years, but that's this year's version. So once a week, we each make a note for so look here, it says January 3rd, 2025, and we each write
Okay.
one positive thing for the week, then we fold it up. And so
Wow.
when we get to this next new year, we will sit down and we'll read through the year, and we have something. So and very often it's something that you would have forgotten about until you read it and like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's right, we did have that experience.
Well, that's such a great
And it's just,
idea.
like, because I think, so for some people they think it's a bunch of BS when they say gratitude or like, think of the positive things.
Yeah.
But you know what? Everybody can come up with one thing for the week, just one thing. And I
Yeah.
think that
There's got to be at least
Jay, you
one.
can disagree with me if you want, but very often, by the time you look later on in the year, the page is full of things. Because you're like, well, this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened. And it's just, it's such a heartwarming thing to go back and read through it once you get to when the
Yeah.
year turns.
And to,
Absolutely.
and to see your progress and to see all the little wins that we've talked about, celebrating those little wins,
Exactly.
you forget as you get stronger and as you're doing more, you're like, oh my gosh, back in January, I couldn't even think of doing this. So
Absolutely.
that's such a great idea that you guys do that. I love it.
Caregivers have to document. They have to take photos. They have to show the progress that they're seeing, because there are moments when somebody who's survived an event like the both of you have survived, there are moments of deep sadness, weakness,
Doubt. Doubt.
unsureness,
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
And that's when you have to be the cheerleader. That's when you have to pull that person up from the depths of wherever they're heading. And sometimes you need to show them, here, this is what you did. This is what you looked like 3 months ago. This is what we set a goal to do this, and you were able to do it.
That's great advice.
It's important for a caregiver to be prepared for those moments. They have to weaponize themselves with evidence of progress, evidence of hope, evidence that the day could be better tomorrow than it is today. And
Yeah,
that hope is around the corner. We just have to keep our eye and lean in on the angle to see the light coming from the other side.
definitely. I totally agree. And mine happening in 2004, there was no social media.
Right?
We didn't even have cell phones yet. We didn't even have digital pictures. So I think I have one picture of
Wow.
myself that a friend who came from Rochester to visit me, she took it and I was in rehab and I was in the wheelchair. My head was bald. The hair just started growing in. And my niece Emily, who was 14 at the time, she's 35 now, she was hugging me. And that's the one photo I have of the entire episode. And, part of me is like, I wish I had more pictures just so I can document it in my own mind. But a part of me is also like, would I want to see
Right,
myself
right. Right.
in those phases, of staring off into space? I did a lot of that. When became too much, I would sit in my room and someone took a picture of me from the hallway and they're looking in on me and I'm just got this like staring off into space. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, but again, your brain is healing. Like, people don't understand. Like, if I could say anything to a caregiver, educate yourself, like, read the facts of what's happening inside the survivor's brain, what they're going through physically, emotionally, mentally. I mean, the brain controls everything, and you have no idea what is happening. We're trying to create the new neural paths around the damaged parts. The bleed killed so many parts of our brain. And even the doctors tell me we still don't know a ton about what the brain is capable of and what it does. And, it helps us as survivors so much when a caregiver can say, no, I understand. I read this and I know that right now this is what you're going through. And that kind of validates our feelings and our frustrations. And I know that Brenda and I always try to look at the bright side, try to be strong. I know we have our moments. We don't like to share it. We don't like to be public with it. But, we do. We look at our lives like like you said, this wasn't supposed to be. It really wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to be teaching and I probably would be retiring soon with all my other friends who went into education. But you know what? My life has pushed me into another totally different direction. And doing this podcast with Brenda is just such a blessing to me. And the fact that we can reach so many survivors and caregivers means so much to me because I felt so alone in 2004. It wasn't the pandemic, but there was nothing online. There were no support groups. I say the story how you only heard about brain aneurysm ruptures when a celebrity died from one.
Yeah. So
That's
true.
it. That's
So
all.
true.
And the only other person I knew that had a brain aneurysm rupture was Laura Branigan. I remember
Oh
that
my
singer.
goodness. Sure.
Remember? She had just died from one, probably the year before mine. And I'm like, when I came to in the ER, I remember them saying it was 6 hours later when they finally scanned my brain. And they're like, okay, I came to, and they said, okay, we figured it out. You had a brain aneurysm rupture and you're lucky to be alive. And I looked at the doctor and I said, brain aneurysm, don't people die from that? And he said, yeah, you're very lucky. And before I went unconscious again, I looked at him and I said, do what you got to do. Like, fix it. Like, I'm not done. Like, you've got to keep going. And then I don't remember again what happened because I went unconscious, but that's all I ever heard of back in 2004. Then I started because I need to know. I did the deep dive. I had my laptop when I got home because we didn't, like you, we were left alone. The surgeons were like, bye. You're
Yeah.
doing great. Keep it going. We saved your life. Bye bye now. And you go home, and my sister and I trying to figure it out. And she couldn't understand why I was sleeping all the time. And I would be up and I'd take a shower with my shower bench and then afterwards need a 2 hour nap. Yeah. And
No
she's like,
joke. Yeah.
what's wrong? You're home. You're going to be fine. And I'm like, I don't feel
Yeah.
fine. Like, nothing feels the same. Everything's exhausting.
I feel that's so important, Trace, what you're bringing up about caregivers and how it's impossible to really put yourself in the shoes and in the, you know, inside the body of somebody who's going through what the two of you went through. But you have to find a way as a caregiver, even though you can't feel it or understand the sensations, you have to find a way to be respectful and cognizant of the fact that that's always going on in the background. There are days that go by where I forget that Brittany's got this tingling all the way up and down. We call them champagne bubbles. We call them fizzy bubble, actually. That's our nickname for it. All the way up her left side. And there could be days where I actually forget that she even has that going on because she doesn't bring it up all the time.
Right.
I'm kind of saying, no, you can't forget about that. You have to remind yourself about that. You know, the energy, the difficulties of managing energy. We didn't know what we were doing at the beginning.
Yeah.
And being alone, I just threw her out onto the street and said, let's go. We're walking. You're going to walk again. And I went back to my days as a coach. I was an athletics coach for many years in basketball and baseball. And I was like, okay, she's my new
Project.
protege. And I'm going to, and I'm going to train her back to health because no one else is there. And I'm going to utilize the tools that I have at my disposal. And I'm just going to get her to do this and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to push
So
her.
I would throw her out there. We would do a 45-minute walk. This is a woman that just came back from a stroke.
What?
I would say it was April. I started to do this at March, April, right away, like weeks after she returned, where she was walking for 45 minutes. She'd come home. She'd take a nap for about an hour and a half. And I'd say, you're going back out. We're going back out. And we would go another 45 minutes. Now, I didn't know what the F I was doing, Tracy. I just thought if I got her to walk, the more I got her to walk, the more she'd relearn how to walk. That's how I was thinking. That's how I was thinking. Very linear.
Yeah.
And I would just, but I didn't know what was going on in her body. I didn't understand energy management. I didn't understand that her body needed to rest. Her brain was working so hard to just figure out each step and what her body is doing to counterbalance and to for her gait to be. It was all so much work. And she would come home after the second session of 45 minutes. She'd throw up. She'd go for a nap. And then be like, we're doing it all over again. We're doing it all over again.
Gosh, Brenda.
And she didn't fight me on it. She was like, I want to get better. If this is the only way to do it, we're going to do it. We both didn't know. So, but getting back to your point more about being in the shoes of the person that you're caring for. So important to not forget what's going on and even to speak quietly, to speak slowly, to speak without bombarding with multiple questions. The processing of the brain is different.
Yes.
It just is different. And as a caregiver, you have to be patient. You have to actually have some restraint and say, you know what? I have this question I want to ask her. I'm not going to ask her right now or him.
Or these 10 questions I want to pepper with.
Yeah. I did it all the time. And I still fall guilty of doing it every now and then. And I realize, whoa,
too much.
And so, and part of it is you want to empower the person that you're caring for to take a more independent, more active role in everyone's life, not just in their own life.
Yeah.
But the questions can be counterproductive as well if you bombard somebody. And so to slow down, to pace yourself and have restraint, as I was saying. Do not ask the question as much as you want to ask the question and you want the answer. You have to find a way to satiate yourself with knowing that you're not going to get the answer right away. Wait for the right time to ask.
Right.
And that's a hard thing to work towards. I had to train myself to do that. I'm still not very good at it. I think I'm gotten better at it. But
Brenda's better at it.
Brenda's been more patient with me, I think.
But that's where educating yourself comes in. Like you said, we're processing so much with damaged areas of our brain, and people don't understand that. Like, what are you doing? Like, let's just do it. And before I have to do something, I sit back and I kind of picture in my brain how I'm going to go about climbing that or taking these steps. And I'm always picturing it before I'm doing it. And, people can just do it naturally. But I have to figure out, is there something I can hold on to? Are there too many steps? And I think people around me, they know now, but I think it's so difficult for them to be like, you used to be able to do that. What's the problem? It's been 20 years. And I'm like, yes, but it's still difficult. Like, people still don't understand that it's a lifelong process. And, I feel bad sometimes. I'm always in a group of family. We went to go find a Christmas tree and we went to the live Christmas tree farm. And, it's the whole family. They're all walking. And my one little niece, who's 10, she come because I'm always so far behind. And granted, I have a bum knee and I need a replacement. And I'm wearing my AFO brace, but we're out in grass. I have to be so careful of the divots, the bumps, the holes.
Absolutely.
I'm always looking down as I'm walking. And my sister's great about that. She's my protector. And she's like, "What's that stump? What's this?" And she's always ahead of me. And she turns around and goes, "What's that right there?" But my niece, she's so sweet, Olivia. She comes behind and they're all ahead and they're already looking at trees. And she comes down, she grabs my hand, she goes, "Aunt Tracy, how come nobody walks with you? How come everybody goes ahead?" And I'm like, "You know what, Liv? Because everyone wants to get to the trees. It's okay. I'm used to it." And she's like, "No, I'm going to walk with you." And she holds my hand and she walks slowly with
Beautiful.
me. And, it just takes a little kid, to get it. And the
She's an
adults are
angel.
all gone and
That's
running
your
and
note
Wow.
this and
this
that.
week.
Yeah, yeah, and that was just last Sunday we got our tree. It was only a few days before Christmas. But yeah, those moments, my family, they weren't trying to be, insensitive or anything, but it's just they're going about their business. And, I know to deal with it and I don't take it personally. And I'm always like, "Go ahead, I'll catch up." Because I'm not gonna slow the gang up. You know what? That's how Brenda and I are so much alike. Like, we don't want to be a burden. We don't want to be a hindrance. So go ahead. Well, I'll catch up. I can do this, but then my niece, it just warmed my heart that she came and, held my hand.
Junior caregiver, your
So
niece,
sweet.
Olivia.
Yes, she
Wow.
really is.
So
She
sweet.
really is. For the beginning, the first 20 years was my nephew Jake, who my sister was pregnant with. When it happened, I came home February 12th, I think it was. He was born July 28th, and I was living with my sister as I was recovering. And he was the reason why I got out of bed every day. And I still say that he was the reason why I recovered the way I did. The strength,
Bless him.
and my sister was hovering and she was so worried about me. And every little thing we were like, "What was that? What? I have a pain in my head." I went back to the ER, I don't know how many times, for swelling, and I had DVTs and I had pulmonary embolisms and I had all these other complications. And I had Jake, he was an infant. It was July. So I had a few months under my belt. I was feeling stronger. And my sister's a real estate agent and her office was just up the road. And she has flexible hours, of course, and she put her business on the back burner. She's just worried about me. And finally, Jake was about 3 months old. And I said to her, "You're driving me nuts. You need to go to work." She's like, "I can't leave. I have been taking care of my nieces and nephews for 37 years. Well, then it was 27 years. Somewhere, I can't do the math right now. But so it's always been natural for me. I've always taken care of babies, children, whatever, teacher. I said, "I got it. I was still napping 2 times a day. I said, "I will sleep when he sleeps. I will stay on this level of the house. I won't do the stairs because my balance was terrible. But I knew if I was holding that baby, I wasn't going to fall. I wasn't going to go far." And I said, "Go back to work. I need you to go back to work. You're driving me insane." And she's like, "Are you sure?" I said, "Renee, you're up the road. If I need you, now we had a cell phone. I said, if I need you, I will call you." So she did. And that was such a blessing. It was Jake, me, and the dog
Wow.
every day for the
Beautiful.
first 3 years of his life. And I say to this day that children are such a blessing when it comes to trying to recover because they give you a reason to get up and move. I can't
Amazing.
just ignore the fact that he's crying. He needs a bottle. I'm going to have to get off the couch and make his bottle, pick him up, change him. And I did it all with one good hand. I was able, I figured it out. And
And
as he got older,
Trace, what a gift your sister
yes,
gave you,
yes,
giving you as a caregiver, giving you the opportunity to find a moment where you can flex your independent muscle, okay?
yes.
Of being able to take care of another loved one, taking care of the dog, another loved one,
Mm-hmm.
taking care of yourself, being
Yeah,
alone in the house. This is only months after the trauma.
yeah.
I mean, that's huge what your sister did for herself. She did it for herself too,
Yeah.
because she needed to get back to work. She did it. I mean, you described it as you just going nuts with her being
Right.
like
She's a
in the
hoverer.
house,
Yeah.
but her leaving and actually taking that step was a huge, bold move, which gave you a tremendous amount of opportunity to, like I said, flex that independent
Yes.
muscle, which everyone needs when they're recovering. They
Yes.
need to know that they could do this, that they could still be themselves, that they could still add value to the
Yeah.
world
You
and
need
not
a
just be
purpose.
receiving.
We
Yeah,
need a purpose. And my purpose has always been being there for the children in my life. I was
amazing.
Aunt Tracy. I'm still Aunt Trey. You know, I'm the one when the oldest ones in their 30s, I was the one when they were kids, when I'd come back to visit from Rochester, taking them to the movies, taking them to the playgrounds, doing this, doing that. And I've slowed up and now I have great nieces and nephews. But it just was always natural for me. So when Jake was born, I say to him now, he's 21 now and he's getting married in Memorial Day weekend, and it's crazy to me. But I say to him all the time, you were my blessing, you were my angel. And we had such a tight bond through his entire childhood because I looked at him like he was the reason why I got out of bed every day and stay in that moment of feeling sorry for myself because he needed me,
So
Love
the
it.
you
youngest
know?
you the youngest caregiver of all time.
Jake.
Yes, Jake. And one day I'll get him on here too, but he's, he's busy. He's a busy guy now trying to be a pilot in the army. So I'll track him
Yeah,
down though. But yeah, we all need purpose. And I think that was a big deal for me in figuring out when I got depressed. I guess it was 10 months after my rupture. It was like that following October. I hit a depression because I lost who I was. And I'm like, what am I doing now? Like, I felt like I'm just a patient. My job right now is to be a patient, go to appointments, go to physical therapy, go to this, go to that. And that's all I was doing. And I wanted so much more. And it took a long time for me to find purpose. And for a long time, I questioned it every day. I'm like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And I still, I started watching kids when I could. I dog sit. So I found some purpose. But doing this right here, this podcast, gives me so much purpose. And Brent, I'm
wonderful.
so happy that you are with me in this because I think together we balance each other out so much. And you brighten up my day every time I see you, and your smile is just infectious. So seeing you just brightens me so much, brightens me up. So this is our purpose, is just trying to help others not feel alone. And to have you, Jay, here as a caregiver to give that point of view, that's it's just incredible because people don't think of the caregivers and how much stress you're under and the fear you had and the uncertainty. And I can't imagine a doctor saying to me, go in there and say goodbye.
Yeah, well,
You know, I just can't even imagine. And I look at my sister and my family who were in that hospital when I went in for surgery, that when I finally got to New York City, and I didn't know this at first, but they went into the room and said, "We don't know if she's going to make it through the surgery. You need to be prepared. She may not wake up.
yeah,
And if she does wake up, she may not know who you are. She may not have her memory. She may not
yeah,
be able to talk. She may not be able to walk again. She may not even wake up at all." And my sister was, like, just blown away, and she just lost it.
I'm sure.
They all did. My aunts and uncles were there, my brother was there. I can't imagine that, and I have that guilt like you do, Bren, like, that they went through that fear,
Tough.
and my heart goes out to them. So I understand now if I wanna talk about it, my sister doesn't wanna hear it. I understand. She doesn't wanna go back to that
Right,
place.
right, right.
I get it. I get it, and I respect it, and I don't, if I ask something she doesn't really wanna go into it, I leave it alone because I can't imagine that. I've never been told your loved one might not wake up,
Right.
and I just can't, and I was never afraid that I was gonna die. As bizarre as that sound, it was never an option in my mind that, "Hey, I could die right now." I never even thought of it. People are like, "Weren't you scared you were gonna die?" And I'm like, "No, I never crossed my mind that I was gonna die." I don't know why, but I guess it was just in me like, "This is fixable. Like, you could repair this and I'll be fine. Like, it's just a headache."
Mhm.
But yeah, it's the perspective that you gave, Jay, is so helpful. And I really hope that there are caregivers that will hear this podcast. They'll
Hope so.
watch it. They'll go to YouTube and follow us and watch it and comment, because we always say we want interaction. We want people to comment and ask questions that we can answer, hopefully. And now, knowing that you are there as a resource, Jay, like if a caregiver has a question, I hope that they're able to just put it in the comments and we could ask you.
Absolutely. I'd be glad to be your resident expert if that's
Oh,
what
that's
you
perfect. We need one of those.
Are you,
What
are
an
you ready
honor.
for a fan club, Jay? I think you're going to get a fan club from this.
I don't know about that, but if they want to see me on YouTube, this is the only video they'll be able to find of me.
Well, I told Brenda yesterday, or was it in an email, I forget, or a text, I need pictures of you guys, because as I'm growing our social media, I want it to be other pictures than just clips of our podcasts. I want to show us that we're real people and we're moving on with our lives, and there are wonderful things going on and important people in our lives that are part of our journey in our recovery. So I told her, you know what? I want some pictures, because I can post that up on Instagram. And the podcast, the full episodes are only on YouTube, but I do the short clips for Instagram and TikTok and Spotify we're on. And we need help with iTunes, because I don't have an iTunes account. So I might need you to upload them to iTunes.
You have one. Yeah.
So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so it's important for people to know that we are real people, and we have families and loved ones and friends, and they need to see all of us, because then they can relate.
And for us to say thank you to you, Jay.
It was a real honor to be with the two of you, really. And I hope it wasn't too weird for you, Brenny, that I was talking with you kind of in the sphere. But
No,
I got over it pretty quickly. I'm very happy that I did this, and I hope that I can make the difference in someone's life. I hope.
I think you will. I
sure
think
you
we
will.
make a difference in a lot
I'm
of
sure
people's
that.
lives. You had such great insight and so much great advice and tips that it's going to help somebody, if not
Let's hope.
a lot of people. And look at you, you're a natural. Isn't he a natural? You think that I'm good at
I
this?
never
He is
doubted
like
it.
phenomenal
I
at this
never
thing.
doubted it.
I know he doubted himself. Why? Like you are.
Right.
You guys made it easy for me.
Oh my gosh. But thank you so much. And we are just a couple of days before New Year's. I want to say thank you so much for doing this with me, Brenda. And I can't wait for all the shows we're going to do. And Jay, thank you for being with us and supporting us and all this. And Happy New Year to everybody, because I'm going to put this up right after New Year's. Last episode was just uploaded yesterday.
Okay,
and we'll put this up. I'll probably put it up by Friday or Saturday.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Everyone can watch.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Happy New Year, Trace. Maybe in 2026 you'll come to Montreal. We'll see.
Yes, I'm getting that knee surgery, and I'll be able to walk without pain probably by next spring. So we'll have to figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. I will hit Montreal with a vengeance. Thanks so much, guys. I love you both.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.